Welcome to How You Slice It. Today, we have a very special guest, someone who I think the world of. I think, this person has more knowledge about the pizza industry, more passion for the pizza industry and the operators than anyone I've ever met. Scott Wiener from Slice Out Hunger. Welcome to How You Slice It. I'm really excited for today's conversation.
Thanks. I am too. I'm bonkers excited to be here because I feel like the first time we met was at a similar table, in a similar way. Like it's awesome, and years later to be in the space in the Slice office with this whole situation and pizza boxes on the wall and gonna talk about pizza. It's nothing I'd rather do.
Absolutely, I remember that moment. We connected over email, I believe, and I came to meet you at John's of Bleecker, and you had a booth in the corner, which was sort of your quasi office. And that's where meetings happened. And one of these booths that was so it has all those like etchings on it where people have put their initials on it and all that good stuff is what I remember the most. Mm-hmm. But really excited to have you on board. And how amazing is this studio? Would love your thoughts on the boxes and the setup. Just as someone who's got so much experience with, we'll talk about your box collection and all that good stuff. But what do you think of the setup?
I love it. I mean, you sent me pictures of it while you were working on it, so I had a little preview. First of all, I love the booth.
Yeah.
This is a ply mold contour booth, which were used in pizzerias and diners because they were crazy durable. So I already know because I asked you before we started recording, and this is, in fact, a used one from a pizzeria New Jersey. So this is exactly, like sitting at this is part of why I love pizza, because I have this association with this booth setup.
Yeah. Growing up, I would go to our local pizza shop. For me, the one closest to me was A&S Pizza on Staten Island. I grew up on Staten Island. And they have these booths, they still do. These booths, an arcade, 2 slices, a can of Pepsi or Coke. Like what more is there to life?
It was like, especially on half days of school, like if there was a half day on a Friday, we'd walk home and we'd go past a place called Calabria Pizza in Cranford, New Jersey, where I grew up. And it was a slice and a soda for $1.50 before 5 p.m. And we'd sit in booths like this. If I had a quarter, I would get a bouncy ball from the little machine in the corner. And it's all those memories are the things that make pizza so exciting. It's not. I don't remember exactly what the pizza was like. I don't. I don't think it was the best. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I remember all those things, and that's why this kind of booth is as symbolic to me about like what is exciting about that food. The same amount of excitement that you get from having a good slice.
So you are one of the most knowledgeable, experienced, passionate people about the industry. Going back to the early days, when did you decide to make this part of what you do, not only from a personal standpoint, but professionally? When did pizza become not only an important part of your personal life growing up, but then professional career?
It's funny. I think about this all the time because people ask me this on pizza tours almost every day. And I've never been able to figure out an exact moment or an exact answer. But I know that growing up, pizza, and this is the same story for every other human, pizza is a part of positive moments in your life. It's where you celebrate things. It's where you go after the soccer game. If you won, it's where you go to celebrate. If you lost, it's where you go to cheer yourself up. It's just part of all these cultural, social activities. And you always end up leaving the pizzeria happier than you were going into it. And I think that really embedded something into me. So when that turned from being just like the normal excitement for pizza that every human has, I'm not special at all in that. But the reason for me that it turned into my lifestyle, profession, everything was probably initiated sometime like in high school, when I think among my group of friends, I sort of became the de facto, like pizza was my thing that I was into. I was like, every group of friends, especially in high school, there's like a thing that you're into and you become that one of my friends is like, was into video games. So that was his thing.
Yeah.
And I was into music and into pizza. Those two things.
Music and pizza.
Yeah. Music was really the first thing that was super That
Mhm.
was like how you would qualify my obsession was music. I played drums
Oh,
and guitar. I used to play in bands. And then in college, those bands, we would tour anytime we were on a break from school. So those tours, I would book the tour because I was kind of the guy in the band who cared about doing things like that, recording, touring, all
Yeah.
that. And I would book the tours to go to famous pizza cities because I really love pizza. And I mean, it was,
that's genius.
I mean, it's just what it was. So like, I didn't know anything about New Haven
Yeah.
until my band was touring and we were at a pizzeria and somebody says, "Oh, have you ever heard of New Haven's got great pizza?" And I said, "I didn't know that because social media wasn't there yet
Right.
and food blogs were just beginning, early 2000s."
Mhm.
So I would make lists of where people told me to go. And then that's where we would do our touring. And we would go and eat those pizzerias because it's inexpensive and it's fun, easy. And also, you leave it in the van overnight and it's still good the next morning. So I think that's the moment that my passion for the pizza as just like as a general term, growing up, pizza is kind of fast food. That's when it turned to me to be this cultural barometer. Traveling around the country, you would sort of understand each community by the pizza that was the most popular there. The one that you have to go to Gino's because they've been around forever.
Every town has that, special place. The one that, or maybe two that are debated.
That battle, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Every town has like,
Yeah.
the Pepe's and Sally's.
Yeah.
So I think in touring with the band, I started to keep a journal of notes of all these pizzerias with the receipts in there. I don't know
Wow.
why.
Yeah.
I mean, I should show them to you.
Yeah.
It's like 6 or
I'd
7
love
of
to
these.
see them. Yeah.
It's insane. That made me even more of the pizza nerd among my friends. And so when I started working and the bands all broke up and I had a real job and decided to quit my job because I just
Mhm.
couldn't see myself climbing the ladder in that job, then it was about a month before my 26th birthday. And I decided for my birthday, I was going to invite all my friends and we're going to go and do a pizza crawl. And I'm going to rent a school bus because a friend of mine from college, her father owned some school bus company. And I was like, I'm going to rent a school bus and a driver. And we're just going to drive around all day and eat great pizza. And that's what we did. And at the end of that pizza crawl, my friends who were on it told me, well, obviously this is what you should be doing. You just quit your job. This is the next thing that you're going to do.
And so Scott's Pizza Tours was born.
was it.
Was that the name of it from day one?
Yeah, I never thought of any other. It's just that's what it was going to be because I wanted to be very clear that I'm not born and raised in New York. I'm not an expert. I've never owned and operated or worked in pizza. Like I wanted to make it very clear that this was my perspective. You're coming on a journey with me. Nobody else is ever going to work for me. At that point, I was like, oh, it's just, I remember my mother said like, oh, what'd you do today? Because she knew I quit my job. I'm like, oh, I went and did this, taking these free business classes that the city of New York was offering. And I'm going to see a SCORE mentor. And she said, is this really what you're going to do? And I remember saying, well, yeah. And she said, okay, well, what's it going to be called? And I said, well, I mean, every band I've ever been in, picking the name is the worst part. And you never end up with anything good. But there wasn't even, it was just like, well, it's called Scott's Pizza Tours because what else would it be? And I remember her saying, well, your middle name's Joseph. The least you could do is call it Giuseppe's Pizza Tours. And I'm like, Mom, we're 0% Italian.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
This has to be legit, honest, real. And
amazing.
So when you ask me how did I decide to make it more of my profession, it was more like my friends decided.
For you.
Yeah, because I never, ever wanted to run a business or be responsible for other people who would eventually work with me. And
well, look, I've been on the tour as a company, Slice. In a moment in time, it was my vision to have every new person who joined Slice to be on the tour. And I think we got derailed a little bit by COVID. But for those listening, I mean, Scott's Pizza Tours is one of the best experiences and events that anyone can go through if you're visiting New York City and you want to see what real, authentic New York is about, experiencing it through the lens of pizza. And your approach to it I thought was incredible going into it, because you really took us through a number of shops with different backgrounds, different histories, different ovens, different styles of pizza, and what each one meant. And I thought it was incredibly powerful. So I want to know, what were your one or two sort of deepest moments of fear when you turned the lights on for your business? What were in that moment, what were the things that were running through your mind?
Well, I guess number one was, are people going to show up to do this? Which with any business, you need customers. And with a business like this, where, I grew up in a household where everything that I thought about doing, my parents would brainstorm about, oh, do we know anybody who's done that? Is there anybody you can talk to, a mentor or something? And then with this, we don't know anybody who's run a tour business, worked in tourism. I mean, it was nothing. So I didn't know anything about that. So people showing up was fear number one. Although that may actually have been number two, because when you ask me that, the first thing I could think of is, I'm taking people around and trying to teach them something. I better know what I'm talking about, because imposter syndrome is real.
Yeah.
And I think it's good and healthy, because my first thought was really, at the time, I'm this 26-year-old kid who's from New Jersey. I'm not from New York. I don't have a New York accent. People are going to sign up and do this. How can I give them something that's authentic, that they'll be okay with, that at the end of it, they won't say, well, gee, what the hell even was this?
Yeah. And then that's one of the common sort of beliefs. And I really want those listening to this conversation to feel like they're not alone. Part of my mission for this platform is to provide a sounding board and an opportunity for our community and operators and future operators and entrepreneurs to really understand that everything that we're feeling is probably not something that we're feeling alone. And so on imposter syndrome, can you talk more about what that is? I know we kind of probably know what it is or have a common definition, but
so imposter syndrome is that thing, it's that voice in your head that's always telling you that you're a BS artist, that you're faking it, that you're not good enough, that somebody's going to find you out. They're going to figure out
expose
that
you.
Yeah, they're going to expose you, that you don't know what you're doing. And
Yep.
And it's funny, because some people use the phrase "fake it till you make it," and then some people use the phrase, "Oh, I'm not good enough," or imposter syndrome or something. And it's really all kind of the same thing, but
Yep.
different perspectives. And my perspective on it is that the moment that I think I'm on top and know everything, and that's the moment that you stop swimming and then you drown. Like, that's not where you want to be.
Right.
I want to constantly feel like I should know more and I should be better, so that I can constantly work, because I've been doing it at this point for almost 14 years.
Incredible.
And 14 years into it, I'm still thinking about, oh, I need to find out this information about this flour product. And, oh, I can't believe I don't know the name of the family that built these 3 ovens that had a masonry company in 1892 to 1895. Like, the stuff that I think I should know has gotten more niche. And from day one, I always thought, well, if somebody asks me a question on a tour, I have to have some background knowledge in it. And if I don't, I have to be very honest about what I do and don't know, and then be able to research it. And it's kind of become a joke on the tour where people try to stump me, and I do not know everything. I absolutely do not know everything. But I kind of know the customer on the tour, and I know what they're looking for. And they've gotten more sophisticated over the years. Now, people know things about food that they didn't think about 10 years ago, 5 years ago even. So now they've gotten more sophisticated, which means I can't slow down. Unfortunately, I still feel good. Like, on every tour, I feel like in the beginning, I think, okay, maybe today's the day that I'll be totally exposed, that I don't know anything. And unfortunately enough, I've been able to respond with good answers the whole time.
Through that journey, was there a moment in time where you felt like, I made it? Maybe not in the sense that, hey, I'm now perfect or I have everything figured out. But can you remember the turning point when you felt like, okay, your fear of failure became sort of the lesser part of your brain and sort of this realization of success, and now it's all about improving. What was that turning point? When did that happen?
I think I started trusting myself more when I realized that people in the industry treated me as a peer and not as some guy who runs a tour company that's just glomming on to my existing business. Because that was also a big fear, which is I'm doing these tours. And when you're on an architecture tour, then the person who's leading you around knows a lot about these buildings and is giving you information. And I'm not talking about an inanimate object. I'm talking about something that's, first of all, food, which is subjective.
Yep.
Everybody has their own opinion, but also it's human because the people running it are people.
Yep.
And I really wanted my customers to understand that the value of a restaurant does not end at the one bite of food, the first bite off the plate, that it's more. And so when people I respect start talking to me, calling me, asking me questions, not as an expert at all, but really like as a peer, as somebody they could bounce things off of, that's when I started to think, okay, maybe I'm on the right track. Maybe it's okay. And like now, even today, when I get people on tours and they'll say the name of their favorite pizzeria, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, well, I know that owner very well. You know, we've traveled through Italy together. We've like been roommates at Pizza Expo or whatever. I kind of have to bury some of that because it's not important. But I can remind myself like, okay, I've been accepted into this community, not as somebody who just runs a tour company, but really as like a point of information who can help. You know, when I get a call from somebody who owns a pizzeria, they're just throwing it at me. Oh, hey, I'm thinking about doing New York slices. What's like the typical hydration and flour for New York? And they know they can call me.
Incredible.
And that's cool.
So one of the name options for this podcast was families behind the counter. And so you speak to knowing the owners, the operators, the families behind some of these shops. What is your favorite story from an owner or a shop that you've gotten to know really well? Give me your most powerful family behind the counter story.
Wow. I mean, there's so many. There's not enough hours in existence to talk about all those families. But there's something about the pride that families have in when they're the second or third generation. Like you go to Santillo's in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and Al doesn't talk about just what he does. He talks about the way his grandfather worked an oven and the way his father did. And that's always really nice. But when you say family and pizzeria and families behind the counter, my first thought goes to Susan and Rose from John's Pizzeria in Queens, in Elmhurst, mother-daughter team.
Mm-hmm.
John is Rose's husband,
Yep.
Susan's father. And it's Rose and Susan working the place all the time. And it's so sweet to watch the interaction. And when you're there, you're sitting in this exact seat.
Yep.
You've got the Tiffany style lamp. You got the mirrors with like the veins of gold through it. And you just hope that nobody ever remodels it. But when you're in there, you really feel like it's their space. I think it's such a cliche. People, oh, when you're in my restaurant, you're really in my house and you're my guest and da. And they never say that. They will never say that. But I feel it most when I'm in that place.
Amazing. And I haven't been, but now that is going to be one of my next visits.
I haven't been there in a while because I think they've been shut for most of, if not all of the past 2 years.
Mm.
So as I tell you about it, I am hoping that they're open.
COVID has been really devastating for so many small businesses, especially restaurants. And so many of our favorite local pizza shops have struggled, but also remained incredibly resilient. What are some of the themes that have come up for you in your conversations with operators over the last 2 years that you think, or at least give you hope for the industry as we look forward?
Well, fortunately, the pizza industry is pretty agile, and the focus for the whole food sector turned to delivery and takeout, which pizza has been the master of for so long. So that didn't really become a problem. The problem came with restaurants that were in neighborhoods where there was a lot of tourist business or a lot of like late night business that just got shut off. But the big themes that I see are, first of all, that focus on the delivery and the desire to enhance the delivery process, since that's all people had time for. And then I also am seeing a huge shift in pizzerias refocusing their product, taking the time. They don't have to deal with the indoor dining for so long. So let's retool our dough. Let's fix some of our operations. And actually, I think it's safe to say we've seen pizza quality increase since the pandemic hit, because a lot of pizzerias have taken the time. Yeah.
What are the most important qualities to a great pizza? Like the end product. What are the most common themes outside of love when you're making it?
That's another one of those cliches that I love the pizza business and people in it, but I can't stand it when I hear that, the secret is love.
Yeah.
Because obviously, but, this is a super subjective question.
Of course.
I feel like the number one thing that's important, I don't care if you like thick crust, thin crust, cheesy, saucy, whatever. The most important thing is a pizza that makes you feel good. Number one, you're happy after eating it. But when you get down into the nitty gritty of it, I think the more important thing is, and maybe this is related to that other point, but the pizza that doesn't make you feel like you've just made a terrible mistake. Like the college late night slice where you're like, oh, should not have done that. But a lot of that is caused by improper dough fermentation.
Right. So what are those inputs, right? Like what are the things that make that great slice that makes you feel really good about eating it?
Well, of course, there's all those different styles, and not every style requires the same thing.
Right.
But for me, like a well-fermented dough, so when you eat it, it has flavor, texture, is light, is not dense and heavy, and a pizza that's balanced. That topping quantities and flavor profile is balanced. When I have a pizza that smashes you over the head with spice or with salt, to me, it's not as exciting. It's not as thrilling. It maybe is thrilling at the moment. Oh, I'm eating this spicy pizza.
Yeah.
But then you're like, well, but for what? What's the second slice going to do? It's like a guitar solo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool guitar solo. You're very good at playing the guitar. Congratulations. But like when you hear a band, a symphony all playing together, I'm so much more impressed by a 60-piece orchestra that can all work together to make you feel something.
How important are the ingredients that go into it?
The ingredients are the ceiling. So if you don't need to make a great pizza, then you can set a low ceiling for yourself and use garbage. But if you want to make a good pizza, if you want to make anything that's good, the quality of the ingredients is going to set the pace.
Set the bar. And then New York water.
So, Ilir,
do you know how often I hear this? And I'm out of words at this point.
I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to answer it honestly. You don't have to name names. Have you ever had a terrible slice of pizza in New York?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that they used water from somewhere else?
I think maybe they import Florida water.
If the worst pizza in New York, which there is a lot of bad pizza, is 2,100, 2,200, you probably know better than I do, over 2,000 pizzerias.
Yeah.
A lot of them are not great. They all use New York water. And if the New York tap water is so amazing and magical and special, then all the pizza would be good.
So where did that come from?
Oh, I've been trying to track this. And it's really frustrating because I feel like I found articles in the 70s or in the 80s, like late. I would have expected to find it earlier. I think in the 40s, there were some articles about that used that phrase sort of as like, saying, oh, like people from the Netherlands are tall. It must be something in the water. People use that phrase to talk about the baked goods of New York. Yeah. So I actually think that its origin was more as a metaphor. And then people started to take it literally because our water is very good. It's very soft, not a high mineral content, but also it's not the lowest mineral content.
Yep.
Portland, Oregon's like 17 parts per million. We've got around 44. Then you get LA, which is like 398.
I love that you know this.
I mean, I keep a TDS meter in my bag most days, so I can test total dissolved solids, tells you mineral content. Because on a tour, I want people to understand, like, they want to know the answer, but I actually want to give them how we know this, because then it'll make them rethink questions a little bit better. So it's not
the water. So what do you think is the limiting factor for incredible, delicious, consistent pizza in more parts of the country? The often story I hear is, I live in LA, I live in Phoenix, I live in, Kansas City, and I really miss New York quality pizza. What do you think is the limiting factor?
It's mental. It's totally mental. I have two ways to answer this question. One way is, the limiting factor in making good pizza is education.
Education.
That's it.
Yeah.
LA, Phoenix, haven't been to Kansas City, but LA and Phoenix have at least one great pizza.
Yeah, at least.
Right. But all it takes is one to show you that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have one great place in Phoenix, there's no reason all of it can't be great. It's all about education and desire, and maybe, well, I serve a lower price point pizza and I don't want to go through the process that's going to take 5 days for my dough, and which costs you space and whatever. So that's the educational part of it is really primary. But the ceiling on the quality of product, I think sometimes it has to do with expectation, where you're selling to a community whose expectation was created by a national chain, or a global chain, I should say.
Yeah.
And if that expectation was set in that place, and then you feed them, you offer them a pizza that's smaller, that costs more, they won't care how arduous the process was to craft that pizza, where you imported the oven from. To them, they're trained to believe that value only means price versus quantity of food.
Interesting.
I think actual value has to do with price and quality of food.
Price and how you feel when you eat it.
Yeah.
Going back to that point.
Which is why the independents and the global chains are not playing the same game in terms of, the big chains are doing about $1.
It's a value game.
Yeah. $1 slice joint sells it for $1. That's their ceiling. But an independent can choose to make a quality pizza as long as they don't try to play by the rules of the global chain. That, you're not going to put up door hangers that say, come on by every Tuesday, 2 pizzas for only $55. That's not going to move any pizzas, because the messaging should be 2 pizzas for like $8.
Yeah. And it's really more about quality and education. And that's been my hypothesis, which is where people who have really learned the craft, New York transplants are in Florida, they're in some parts of Arizona. In essence, they go from New York to like these, warmer towns, or they've expanded into New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And so it's really a matter of expanding that education and the craft in order to provide access to more of the country for what they're seeking, which is great pizza. But I think part of what I heard is the location of where the customers consuming the product may be creating a false sense of, great quality versus poor quality. Like, 2 of the same slices may taste different if you're having one in New York versus having the same one in Denver. Do you think that's true?
I think that's such an amazing point, because the culture of the location is going to influence not only like the demand of what the food should be, but also how you interact with the food.
Yeah.
You just made me think of something. You said before about people, let's say they leave New York and they say, oh, I really miss the New York slice thing, and they're in Kansas City. Sorry, Kansas City.
Yeah.
We're not picking on you.
It's okay.
But part of it is that, well, the reason that the New York slice exists is because of the way New York is set up.
Yeah.
It's a grid. Downtown especially, there's a lot of small footprint storefronts.
Mm-hmm.
And that opened the doors to having these small, portable, in quotes, stainless steel gas-fueled ovens that really started happening in the early 40s. And that gave way to the possibility of baking a pizza and reheating it when somebody came in to purchase the pizza. And then there's nowhere to sit. So you eat it as you're walking, which means that you pick it up and you fold it, because that's the only way, that's how it works.
Uh-huh.
So all those things are because of the way New York exists. And when you go to LA, it's a different city. The demands on that food are different. A large pizza is not 20 to 22 inches in diameter because it doesn't need to be, because you're driving up to the place.
Right.
And you can't drive up and expect to have the same experience with the food that you would if you were walking up. And I feel like social media has made everybody feel like, in a positive way, it's made everybody feel like they're in the same place and they can share the same things. And I think social media has led to an increase in food quality and people seeing what somebody else is doing and doing the same thing. It's, what used to take decades is now taking months,
If not days,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Detroit style pizza took a long time to really launch off, but now it's everywhere. I get questions every day about it. New York style pizza was this kind of slow filtering thing that spread.
Gradual.
Yeah. But I think as a negative, it also means that the consumer is given this false expectation that you should be able to experience a Mexican street taco, a Mexico City street taco, anywhere the same way that you would experience it on the streets of Mexico City.
Right.
Which
It's just not going to happen.
no, like Neapolitan pizza, when you eat it outside of Naples, I've had amazing Neapolitan pizza. But when you're in Naples, the experience, the whole being in that place, the terroir, all that, like, it is true that it's important to it. So when you miss the New York slice, part of you is missing running to the train with a slice in your hand, and part of you is missing the smell of urine on the street.
Shifting gears a little bit.
It's like, no.
No, but it's true, and we'll get back to this, which is actually, you know what, I'll ask it now, which is, what are the 3 institutions that a pizza lover, like someone who's really passionate about pizza, has to go through at least once in their life? You spoke about Neapolitans, Neapolitan pizza in Naples.
Yeah, eating a Neapolitan pizza in Naples will shift your paradigm because of the feeling in the space, in the look on everybody's face while they're there, the passion of the pizza maker, this nonchalance, where in America, some places are either like treating it like they don't care, or they're treating it like they care too much. And in Naples, it's effortless. It's like breathing. That is an amazing experience to have. I think having a slice in New York, standing up on the street.
On a paper plate.
Yeah, on a paper plate, and the slice is hanging off the side. That's important.
Grease on your hand from the bottom of the plate.
I had this woman named Lynn on the tour on Sunday, and she said, when I left New York 40 years ago, and all I can think about is the oil dripping down my arm. Which is funny because to somebody who doesn't know that experience, oil dripping down your arm is a negative. But to the person who associates that with the joy of eating a slice of pizza on the street in New York, it's a positive. And both people are right.
Yeah.
But
that's the beauty of pizza.
You can dislike pineapple and I can like it.
Correct.
It's okay.
Correct.
But pizza in Naples, the pizza on the street, and the pizza you make yourself at home.
Oh, you make yourself.
Yeah. I know you might be thinking about like what are 3 of the pizzerias that you need to experience. But I think making pizza yourself, and I don't care if you fail or succeed or whatever, you're always going to think you can make a better pizza. But that experience, I think, is so transformative that when you make a pizza that you are proud of, then you start to understand deeper about the skill of the person who makes the pizza at your local pizzeria. And I think that's a really important experience because it changes that position from being the position of the person flipping burgers that my mother always warned me about becoming. And suddenly it becomes a positive because you realize, wait, I had trouble doing this. Yeah. How the heck, what magic are they doing?
It's a craft. It's a craft. One of my favorite things that I've learned from you is the definition of pizza.
Ooh, what did I say?
Well, how would you define pizza? I learned this on the tour. Yeah.
And I'm only wondering what I said because I'm always changing my definition of it because I'll preface it by saying words are always changing their meaning. And even the word pizza historically has gone through a roller coaster of meanings. But to me, it's a yeast leavened dough that gets stretched, topped, then baked. And of course, you can have little fuzzy things right beyond that. like a par-baked Sicilian or a pizza fritta, or a Montanara fried pizza. But to me, do you agree with it?
Yeah, well, the one specific aspect of that is that it has to be baked at the same time.
Yeah. The toppings, there's substantial weight on it during the bake.
The question is, if you bake a pizza or if you bake something and then you add toppings after, is that a pizza?
Right. To me, if there's substantial weight and then you add additional post-oven toppings, still a pizza.
Still a pizza.
But because of pizza's origin in the bread bakeries of the mid to late 1700s in Naples, the whole idea was without anything weighing down the dough, it inflates when you bake it. And that's a flatbread and you put stuff on it and eat it with hummus and it's awesome. But if you weigh down the dough with something, then the pressure of the dough against the floor of the oven extracts heat from the oven floor and cools it down to prepare it for bread baking. And so it's the weight of those ingredients on top that does the practical job of cooling down the oven floor for a bread baker, pre-pizzeria bread baker. So that weight on top is what makes that not just a flatbread, but specifically pizza napoletana.
Incredible. Sliced Out Hunger.
Yes.
I'll leave it at that. Walk me through it.
So Slice Out Hunger it's a nonprofit organization that does fundraising and just general work in the food insecurity sector through pizzerias and pizza-related campaigns and events around the U.S.
Yep.
So nationwide organization based in New York, essentially run by 2 people and a very small board and an amazing set of volunteers. And it's something that sprung out of the pizza tour business because a year into running my tours, I had, I guess, kind of like a celebration first anniversary party. And a bunch of pizzerias gave me some free pies to serve at the party. And I just figured, instead of just giving them away, why don't we charge everybody $1 per slice? And then Scott's Pizza Tours would match every $1, and we could write a check to City Harvest, which is food rescue organization in New York. And that event happened for a few years.
Wait, by the way, can we talk about the event? Because the event is one of my favorite nights of the entire year.
It's
one of my favorite events that I've ever attended. Can you walk everyone through what this event is actually like?
I mean, and it took 3 or 4 years to get to what the event really has become now. But picture this. You walk into a room and there are 60 pizzerias represented in that room. Most of the owners are there and they're serving slices of their pizza, and it's $1 per slice. And all the best pizzerias in New York City and the surrounding area. And you get a pizza box when you walk in, and you buy a bunch of tickets, $1 per ticket. And then at each table, you want a slice of DeFara, you want a slice of Joe's, you want a slice of whatever, downtown pizza, hand over a ticket. And then about 10 minutes into it, it becomes so much hugging among pizza people. And then all the customers are sitting on the floor with their boxes and discussing each slice and marking them with little flags that they make at home. And it becomes such an amazing pizza appreciation community event that if it were just a fun pizza party, that would be enough.
Yeah.
But all the money that we raise gets matched by a few different sponsors. And at the end of the night, we raised $75,000 for some local hunger relief organization.
Incredible.
For an event that costs us under $5,000 to run.
Incredible. And you, in essence, have my experience, first time walk in, and there's this sort of path, this journey that you take. And along that journey, next, imagine all of the best pizzerias in the world put themselves next to each other on one street, one main street. And this main street is called Pizza Main Street. And every single store is some pizza institution. And you just go from one to the other to the other. And as you walk through this journey, I think absolutely one of the biggest takeaways I got was this community aspect from the pizzeria owners themselves, helping each other or connecting. And then obviously the people coming in and buying the slices and, these big empty pizza boxes walking in. And by the time you get to the end of the journey, You've got a full box with all of your favorite slices and kind of debating some of them with your friends that you visited with, and just the whole event is, I mean, it's just incredible. It's a microcosm of sort of what the pizza community is all about. All in, slice out hunger, focused on hunger relief. You helped us lead one of the most powerful hunger relief, but also pizza community initiatives that I've ever seen in Pizza versus Pandemic. Can you walk us through Pizza versus Pandemic and what that meant for you?
Oh man. So I think it was March 20th of 2020
Yep.
when you called me. And this will happen a lot, people who are listening, where I'll get a text or a call from Ilir that's just like, hey, I want to bounce something off you. And then he'll like say some kind of crazy idea. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess so. Here, let me know. But this one was, hey, all these restaurants have to close. We want to do something to support them to keep them open. We know a lot of people who also want to support them. Can Slice Out Hunger somehow help us buy pizza from them, and let's deliver that pizza to people who could use it? Like in March of 2020, those people were frontline workers, healthcare
Yes.
workers, everything.
EMS, all that.
Everything. And it was, I think, within 2 or 3 weeks that we had over $200,000 and a set of volunteers. Well, in the beginning, it was really just me making all the calls,
Yeah.
and then a set of volunteers. And we spent 2 solid years taking in donations and then using those donations to fulfill requests from frontline workers to execute deliveries that we were purchasing from independent pizzerias all around the US. Just an absolutely amazing program. The Pizza versus Pandemic program fed hundreds of thousands of people. It put money into independent small businesses, and it also I think it showed people that you can do something at a time that we all felt really useless. Like, I can't sit still, and when I had to stop doing tours, March 15th I think was the last one, I had to stop doing tours, and of course I'm stuck at home, and I went into, okay, well, I have to do some kind of crazy project right now. And I think I started rebuilding my entire 12-year-old website. And then when I got that call from you, I was like, oh, no, this is the project. This is way better. And, it was like that moment where I think a lot of people on the planet
Yeah.
were like switching into, well, what's my talent and how can I use that to help people in this situation that we have no control over? And that was it.
Luckily and fortunately, we don't have to talk about pandemic forever. But the program itself is so powerful that you called me this time one day and said, how do we keep this going? What are some of the things we can do? And you had an amazing idea for how the program can evolve. Can you introduce the evolution of the program and what it means for the future of it?
Yeah, so the mechanism for Pizza versus Pandemic is so simple. It's people make donations online. They can sometimes they can specify at least what part of the country they want their money to go to. And then we have people can nominate a recipient for the pizza. And then we follow through and check it all out. The Slice team pairs it up with a pizzeria that can safely comply with the order. And it's too good of a mechanism. So the new version of this program is directed toward helping the soup kitchens, shelters, after-school programs, senior centers, the people who are really always affected by food insecurity.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that number has grown because of the pandemic. So this new program is called the Pie It Forward program.
I love that name.
And
Pie It Forward.
my brother texted me and he goes, I can't believe it took you this long to use the phrase Pie It Forward. And I said, we've been waiting. But yeah, Pie It Forward is the new mechanism. So you can sponsor a delivery. You can choose as a person at home wanting to help out, you can choose to donate any amount. You can specify one of 8 regions in the US where you want that money to go. And then our team, we've like refined the back end process of how this all works over the past 2 years. And our system allows our volunteers to work with the beneficiaries, and it allows the Slice team to pair up a pizzeria, and we get food to people who need it. And now we can do this. You can give somebody a birthday gift of sponsoring $100 worth of pizza to somebody on the West Coast. I love the idea of gift giving with that. So we wanted to capture what we were doing with pizza versus pandemic. And unfortunately, hunger is such a big problem that we see this as being a program that we will run indefinitely. Our real goal would be that we don't have to do anything because it won't be a problem.
It won't be a problem.
Yeah, but
unfortunately,
that's
too idealistic. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And how do listeners find the program?
They can go right to sliceouthunger.org, and there's a button on the top that says campaigns. They can go right to that. Very easy to find it. Or they can go to sliceouthunger.org/pie it forward with dashes between.
Amazing. These aren't the only programs you've been involved in. Everything you really, we can sit here all day and talk about some of the initiatives and programs that you've worked on or cool projects. You are, I think, the Guinness World Record holder for pizza box collection.
Yes.
How did that come to be?
That's the benefit of, what do you call it, of imposter syndrome.
Okay.
Really, because when I was starting the tour business, part of me was thinking, well, I have to know as much as I can about every angle of the human experience with pizza as possible. And I saw a stat that said that 2/3 of the pizzas eaten in America are at some point hit a pizza box, delivery and takeout. We experience pizza through the pizza box. And I thought that was fascinating. So I started researching more about the technology and the history. And then as I did that, I would notice the pizza box at pizzerias because I usually eat at the pizzeria. It's the best way to experience, always. And sometimes I would see a pizza box that looked cool and I would save it. And at the second Slice Out Hunger event that we ever did, I thought, well, we need a way to convince people to come to our event because I foolishly didn't think that $1 slice was enough, but I was wrong. And I decided, I'm going to put up an art gallery, a pizza box art gallery on the wall, much like what you have in your beautiful studio. And I put out a call on YouTube and Twitter, all these things, and people sent me pizza boxes from around the world. So at that was our first gallery show where we had, I think, 15 or 16 different countries covered.
Oh my God.
And I thought, this is so cool. We put them on the wall. And then there was a slippery slope because now I couldn't stop collecting pizza boxes.
How big is your apartment?
Yeah, right. Well, at that time, so I'll have to send you pictures of this. I have a picture of, I'm not terribly handy, but I was handy enough to build a shelf above my door. It was very wobbly, but I stored all the boxes up there. And then I moved into a place that had more storage space and then moved again for more storage space. But at the point where I got the Guinness World Record was really, I'd been contacted by a publisher in Brooklyn who said, somebody we were talking about books and we want to do something about pizza because everybody talks about pizza lately. And somebody who works for us knows you. And so I went in for a meeting and we were brainstorming. And the owner of the publishing company, a guy named Dennis from Melville House Publishing, said, I've always wanted to do a pizza box art book. Do you know anything about pizza box art? And I said, well, yeah, I got 350 pizza boxes in my closet at home. God. And that's a scary, weird thing to say to somebody in most contexts. But so we decided then and there, all right, Dennis and Valerie run the company. And they said, let's do the book. So I think we just shook hands and I was like, great, now I can collect more. And there's a reason. So in the week the book came out, I contacted Guinness World Records and I said, I don't know how this works, but I got a collection of pizza boxes. Is this something you would do? And the way that their collection process works is they tell you if the collection is something that they're even interested in, because Guinness World Records is a business and you pay them. They do a certification thing. There's a bunch of stuff going on. And I thought, well, can I afford to do this? Is it worth to do because it'll promote the book? And then they told me that they loved the idea of this collection being a record, and they were doing a thing called Guinness World Record Day, which was a big press push to do a bunch of publicity that year. And Guinness World Record Day happened to be a week after the book came out.
Oh, wow.
And they said, if you let us use your record for publicity, then we'll waive all the fees. And I was like, well, I'm not an idiot. Of course, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then they came to my apartment. They certified the collection. I had to have 2 outside counters, and I had to film them as they counted the collection. So I got a couple people from Pizza Today magazine. Seriously, like
Yeah.
Josh and Mandy
Mhm.
from Pizza Today magazine. They were in New York for 2 days. And whenever they're on a trip, it's so fast, they have no free time. And I said, I'm going to pick you up, drive you to my apartment. You're going to count the boxes, and then I will drive you anywhere you want to go at all, anywhere. And that's what happened. They counted the boxes.
Amazing.
So the world record was set at 595,
Oh my God. Where are you now?
1612.
Oh my God. 1,612 different pizza boxes.
Yes, unique boxes from 116 different countries. They're clean. I should say that. I know people listening are like, "Oh, this guy lives in a rat's nest." No, they're clean. They're organized. They're cataloged. I have a
Amazing.
spreadsheet.
Oh, wow.
I have them all pictures in my phone of every single box top. So I know that's why I know the exact number. Is because yesterday I took a picture of a box from Montana that somebody sent me.
I've got to come by.
Yeah,
I've got to come
dude,
by and check it out.
It's
And the book is named
it's called Viva la Pizza: The Art of the Pizza Box.
Amazing. So, and it's still for sale, correct?
It is available. Yeah.
Great. Most memorable box and why?
Well, it's funny because it's like memorable pizza has to do with the moment, right? And memorable pizza box for me, a lot of them are about the moment I got them, like who gave it to me. And sometimes people save them in their luggage and they travel and they bring them to me on a pizza tour. But there was one that I got in the Netherlands in 2005. I was at this pizzeria. I said, "Oh, can I get an empty pizza box?" And they brought me the empty box. And to me, a pizza box that's even a generic box that's in Dutch or is produced outside of the US is interesting because it's not what I'm used to. And I said, this is a really interesting box. And I remember the guy said, "That's not that interesting. That's normal. I should show you the ones that I just got last week." And I was like, "Please do." And I didn't have a world record at the time, but I had no credentials to show. But I was like, "Yeah, let me see." And he pulls out this pizza box, and I think I blacked out. I remember making a very high pitched squeal, but only because I heard the end of it. It's one of these moments, and it was this box. It's full bleed, so it's printed off the edges of the box. Already very exciting because usually you design within the box.
Correct.
And it was full color, and it was an image of what looked kind of a lot, 90% like Homer Simpson and 90% like Bart Simpson.
Oh, wow.
But they both had hair that was different, and it was very clearly a trademark infringement, which is my favorite genre of pizza box and any art. And I was just so blown away by it. It was like the moment of excitement, of discovery, paired with how cool that box was.
Incredible.
That's probably still like a favorite.
Incredible. Last question, and we'll give you your day back. But
this is the problem: is that we could talk.
We could
about
do this
pizza.
all. We could do this all day.
And you're asking me. I have questions I want to ask you. So one day we'll do a flip.
When you launch the podcast, the Viva La Pizza podcast, I'll be there.
That's actually a good name.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that?
What are the tips that you have for pizzeria owners and operators to help them become more memorable to their customers?
Look, as someone who has never owned, or operated, or managed a pizzeria, my perspective on this is just the consumer perspective. And I think the number one thing you could do, and this is like maybe a little too abstract, but it's really about the experience. It's about creating something that's memorable. And I think that something that's memorable, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've got some crazy weird painting on the wall, or that your pizza has 100 pounds of cheese on it and whatever. I think it's creating something that's authentic to the person serving it. The food that tells you about the person who made it, I think, is memorable and authentic. And you can not like it, but I feel like you can't complain about something that's authentic to somebody.
Yeah.
Unless you're just having a terrible day.
Authenticity. Don't try and copy someone else. Do something out of passion. Create something really authentic. and it'll really come across.
Yeah, because if it's something that's authentic to your experience, then if somebody copies you, then it's pretty clear.
Yeah. I love that.
And being inspired by people is great.
Of course.
But direct copy usually reads as copy.
For sure.
And that could be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I think is the most important, is creating that memorable, authentic experience, whether it's through the pizza, the ambiance, the whatever. The whole place should be you.
Thank you so much, Scott. This has
Ilir.
been awesome. We never really got a chance to sit down and have this kind of a conversation. So this was really powerful for me as well.
The last time it happened was at John's.
Correct.
A table much like this.
13 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know why we haven't had the conversation in a while. We've both been busy.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that that this has sort of reset things. And here we are having the conversation, and there's microphones and cameras.
Yeah. And to your point of being inspired, you've inspired this.
Oh,
so thank you.
There's no way I was the only one telling you. Obviously, you have to have a
You've
podcast.
inspired a lot. So thank you so
pressured.
much. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of both.
Well, it's been
Thank
my
you,
honor.
Scott.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Absolutely.